With a 10-mile red dowry, I waited for my future husband to come and marry me. But the heir of Marquis Wuan had a white sedan chair carried over to receive the bride. Just because his cousin living in the Marquis's manor was gravely ill, and a master said she couldn't see red, the heir had his men wrap the bridal sedan in white cloth overnight. He said, "It's just a sedan chair, what does the color matter? The important thing is that you're marrying me, isn't it? You've always been sensible, so I'm sure you won't fuss over such a small matter." Dressed in red, I didn't even give him a glance, turning around to walk toward the young general in the crowd. "Jiang Nuo, I heard you rode a sweat-blood treasure horse today. It would serve well for receiving a bride. Would it be convenient for you to bow to heaven and earth and marry me?" "Miss, this is bad. The heir of Marquis Wuan has brought a white sedan chair to receive you." My personal maid, Ruower, rushed in shouting with red-rimmed eyes. All at once, the noble ladies who had come to add to the dowry went silent. Then the room exploded. Oh, what is going on? How could they bring a white sedan on such a joyous day? Is this a wedding or a funeral? Isn't this a slap in the face to the general's manor? Is he here to receive the bride or to ruin the marriage? I yanked off my veil. What's going on? Then, frowning, I walked out. The outside of the general's manor was already crowded with people, packed so tight not a drop of water could trickle through. Seeing me appear, they all shouted, "The bride has come out! Why isn't the bride wearing the red veil?" Outside the general's manor, the bridal sedan meant to welcome the bride was wrapped in white cloth, sitting lifelessly at the entrance, forming a stark contrast with the ground covered in red firecrackers outside. The heir is actually using a white sedan to welcome the bride. What is the meaning of this? I spoke up coldly. Gu Shuyu stepped forward, a look of apology on his face. "Jinshu, my cousin is seriously ill. The master at Xian Temple said she cannot see red, otherwise there will be a bloody disaster. I had no choice but to switch to a white sedan to welcome the bride." "The color of the sedan doesn't matter. What's important is that you're marrying me, isn't it? You have always been sensible, so you should be understanding, right?" Understanding. Since the founding of our dynasty, no one has ever used a white sedan to fetch a bride. It's not like we're holding a ghost marriage. "Cannot see red..." I glanced at Gu Shuyu, looking at the white showing inside his collar. Presumably, he had even changed the groom's ceremonial robes to white. I took a step back. The general's manor is marrying off a daughter. With an 8-bearer sedan chair and 10 miles of red dowry, she absolutely cannot leave in this manner. If she is carried out in a white sedan, how will the girls of our Pingnan general's manor face the world in the future? Since the heir cares about your cousin's illness, we might as well wait until your cousin recovers before discussing the wedding date. Gu Shuyu got anxious and chased In-O. "Jinshu, why must you care about such a trivial matter? What does the color of the sedan matter? Is this the Shen family's upbringing? You can't even tolerate this bit of grievance?" I turned around. "Heir, be prudent. The grand ceremony is not yet complete, and I am not yet a member of the Marquis of Wuan's manor. Why should I have to suffer such grievance from your family?" As I was speaking, my stepmother hurried out from the backyard. "Oh my, the heir is here. The auspicious time is almost upon us. Why hasn't Jinshu gotten into the sedan chair yet?" Gu Shuyu smiled and said, "Mother-in-law is the reasonable one, after all." My stepmother wiped the tears from the corners of her eyes with a handkerchief and looked at me. "We will all be one family in the future. You are marrying the heir, so his cousin is also your sister. By entering in this white sedan, just consider it saving a life. You are born a noble lady. You should know that a woman follows her husband after marriage and treats him as her heaven. Don't tell me you're refusing to marry just because of a sedan chair." A hint of a smile played at the corner of her mouth, and my heart went cold. She wasn't my biological mother after all. But for the legitimate daughter of the general's manor to marry in a white sedan if word got out, it would be a disgrace to the entire clan. As the mistress of the house, how could she agree to it with such peace of mind? Gushuyu smiled and said, "See, even mother-in-law has no objection. Jinchu, get in the sedan, quick!" Ruo Air rushed out to shield me. "You people are bullying us too much. On her wedding day, making the young miss ride in a sedan like this? Just wait until the general returns. He will definitely make you pay." My stepmother's face turned cold. "You are just a servant. Since when is it your turn to speak? Someone come. The auspicious time is approaching. Quickly help the young miss into the sedan." The wedding matron rushed forward to support me, but I shook her off. "Oh, Mother, if I sit in a sedan like this to get married today, the general's manor will lose face completely. You need to think clearly. Little sister hasn't discussed marriage yet. If her reputation is ruined, how will she marry into a noble family in the future? When that time comes, if my brother-in-law's family also sends a white sedan to carry her off, how will you deal with that, Mother?" Stepmother was furious. "What nonsense are you spouting? Are you cursing your sister? A white sedan is for dead people to sit in. You know full well your sister is in poor health, yet you dare say such things to curse her." I smiled. So Mother knows a white sedan is inauspicious. And here I thought Mother was too short-sighted to know that white sedans are for the dead. The people who had followed the heir to escort the bride stepped forward anxiously and said, "Heir, the auspicious hour is almost here. If the bride doesn't get in the sedan now, we won't make it in time." Gushuyu looked at me. "Jinchu, it's time to get in the bridal sedan." I took a step back. "Heir, please forgive Jinchu for not being able to get in the sedan. Let's discuss the wedding date again after my father returns." Gushuyu was exasperated. "The wedding date for our two families was set long ago. How can you say you won't marry just like that? Do you know how long our Marquis Manor has been preparing?" I pointed at the bridal sedan outside. "Just the effort of a bolt of white cloth. How long does that take to prepare?" Suddenly, someone rushed in from outside, panting. "Heir, Miss Cousin is here." Just as they were speaking, several maids and matrons supported a young lady as she entered. It was Gushuyu's cousin, Song Shinner. Her small face was pale as she walked before us, panting with every step. Gushuyu supported her, his heart aching. "Shinner, your health is poor. What are you doing here?" Song Shinner looked at me, her eyes brimming with tears. "Sister-in-law, don't blame him. It's all because of me that cousin caused such a scene." I came specially to apologize. The master said that in my illness, I absolutely cannot see red. So cousin came up with this method to fetch the bride. I'm truly sorry to you, sister-in-law." I interrupted her. "Miss Song, don't call me that. I haven't entered the gates of the Marquis of Wuan's manor yet, so I am not your sister-in-law." "You can't see red, so are the bridal room and wedding hall in the Marquis of Wuan's manor all white. Is your Marquis of Wuan's manor planning a funeral like it?" My words made the people from the Marquis of Wuan's manor lower their heads. "It seems I guessed right." Song Shinner coughed lightly. "It's all my fault. If not for my weak body, I wouldn't have dragged the Marquis's manor down to this. And cousin wouldn't be in such a difficult spot for my sake." "Miss Shen, don't blame cousin. If you want to blame someone, blame me. I'm kneeling to you, please get in the sedan chair. We can't miss the auspicious hour." She knelt down weakly in front of everyone, tears sliding down her face. "It is Shinner who has burdened Miss Shen and cousin. I beg Miss Shen, for my sake, get in the sedan chair and marry into the Marquis of Wuan's manor." She looked like she was about to breathe her last pitiful and touching, breaking the hearts of the onlookers. "Oh my, This can't be helped either. It's only right for the heir to care for his sister. Miss Shen is being a bit too petty. Miss Shen is too petty. The cousin miss from the Marquis Manor even knelt down to beg her. What more does she want? There were also some different voices. What do you mean, too calculating? If you had to sit in this sedan chair for your wedding, wouldn't you find it bad luck? Didn't you hear? The Marquis of Wuan Manor even used white for the wedding hall just for the sake of the cousin miss. Caring so much about a cousin, even placing her above the future heir's wife? I don't believe it if you say there's nothing going on between this cousin and the heir. My guess is, the heir likes her. Isn't it always like this in storybooks? Cousins pledging their love to each other in private? Gu Shuyu's heart ached terribly. He helped Song Shinner up, letting her lean lightly against his chest, and looked at me while suppressing his anger. Shen Jinchu, have you made enough of a scene? Shinner dragged her sick body here to beg you so bitterly for your sake. What more do you want? Could it be that you won't marry just because of a sedan chair? You are so petty and calculating. How can you be worthy of the position of the mistress of the house in the future? How can you be a good clan wife for my Gu family? Song Shinner's face was deathly pale, and she said unsteadily, Cousin, don't blame Miss Shen. It's all Shinner who's been a burden to you. Miss Shen, if you really mind, I can move out of the Marquis Manor. This way, Cousin can marry you into the family with great fanfare and dignity. As long as Cousin is well, it doesn't matter what happens to me. Cousin, your marriage is important. It's better if you let me move out of the Marquis Manor. You've taken care of me for a long time. I can't keep overstaying my welcome at the Marquis's manor. Now, on this joyous day, I've made things so embarrassing. How could I possibly feel at ease? As she spoke, she reached out her hand to the maid. Huire, help me back to the Marquis Manor to pack our things. We're moving out of the manor right now. Having said that, she took a step forward and immediately fainted. Gu Shuyu threw his arms around her and shouted, Quick, call a doctor. Then, with red eyes, he roared at me. Are you satisfied now? Do you really have to get Jinner killed before you're happy? He looked at me furiously. Cousin can't see red. Now, just to persuade you, she risked danger to enter the manor to see you. She fainted precisely because she saw you dressed in red. If you still want to marry into the Marquis Manor, go change into a white dress immediately. Jinner risked her life for you. Can't you just think of her for once? If you want to marry, then get in the sedan chair immediately. If not, I will turn and leave, and there won't be any medicine for regret for you later. I looked at his heartbroken appearance and took a step back. Oh, the heir and your cousin share such deep affection. Jinshu truly cannot bear to interfere. Upon careful reflection, ours is a blind marriage, and indeed not a good match. It would be better to cancel the wedding right here. From now on, our respective marriages will have nothing to do with each other. Gu Shuyu's face turned livid. Fine, Shen Jinshu. You'd better not regret this. Let's go. The marriage between the Marquis of Wuan's manor and General Pingnian's manor is hereby cancelled. Miss Shen, if you regret this later, don't come begging to me. Song Shinner slowly woke up in his arms and said weakly, Cousin, don't. Don't fight with Miss Shen over Shinner. It's all Shinner's fault. Just let Shinner leave the manor. As long as you and Miss Shen live happily together, Shinner's death wouldn't be a pity. Gu Shuyu gently coaxed her. Don't talk nonsense. I promised I'd take care of you, so I will take care of you for the rest of my life. After saying that, he carried Song Shinner out of the general's manor. The stepmother chased after them, shouting, Heir, how can the wedding be cancelled? I'll persuade Jinshu to change into white clothes right away, all right? After saying that, she turned around and stared at me. If the heir of the Marquis of Wuan calls off the wedding with you, how will your sisters in the clan get married in the future? You are trying to ruin your sisters' lives. Even if you don't want to marry, you can't ruin your sister's futures. If people find out a daughter of the Shen family was rejected on her wedding day, who would still dare to come to the Shen family to propose? It's all because your father spoiled you. Now that the general isn't here, I, as your mother, will teach you the rules. Men, come here. Take off the eldest Mrs. wedding dress, change her into white clothes, and send her off to marry in the time it takes for a stick of incense to burn. The servant women in the manor heard the stepmother's order and immediately rushed up to hold me down. Eldest miss, you'd better hurry and change your dress. As they spoke, they started to pull off my wedding dress. Ruoer rushed up to protect me. Stop it! How can you treat the eldest miss like this? The next second, she was kicked away by a burly servant woman and fell to the ground. I slapped him across the face. Insolent! I am the eldest miss of the general's manor. How many heads do you have, daring to touch me? My words stunned the servant woman, and she weakly let go. I stepped forward, eyeing them coldly. Just the likes of you dare to be so insolent? You'd better see clearly. This household is named Shen. Think hard about who the real master is. Stepmother sneered. Eldest miss, really. No matter how noble you are, marriage follows the parents' orders and the matchmaker's words. This marriage was arranged for you by your father. No matter what the heir is like, you have to marry him. Just because the color of the sedan chair didn't suit your fancy, you threw a tantrum demanding to cancel the engagement. Our Shen family certainly doesn't raise daughters like this. Even though your father is far away at the border, he has worried himself sick over you. As the mistress of the house, I absolutely won't let you run wild here. Don't you know that if you offend the Marquise's manor, it's going to affect your father's career? How can you be so selfish as to disregard the entire Shen clan? Besides, marrying into the Marquise's manor as the official wife? What's wrong with that? You'd have fine clothes and rich food, be treated like gold and jade. Are you still going to pick and choose? I smiled mockingly. Mother, it is precisely for father's sake that I dare not agree. Such a disgraceful matter if it were to spread. Wouldn't everyone gossip about the Shen family? Saying that to climb the social ladder, we don't even care about our dignity? When the Marquis of Wuan's manor sent the betrothal gifts back then, they said they wanted to marry the legitimate daughter of General Pingyun's manor. Although mother is a second wife, sister counts as a legitimate daughter too. Since that's the case, why not let sister marry into the Marquise's manor? No sooner had the words fallen than my legitimate sister rushed out from behind, screaming, Shen Jinchu, don't you even think about it. I won't marry. Who wants to sit in that kind of dead man's sedan chair to get married? Mother, I don't want to marry. Stepmother comforted her in a low voice. Don't worry. How could mother possibly let you marry? She looked at me. Jinshu, you are the eldest sister. You aren't married yet, so how could it be younger sister's turn? This marriage is naturally yours. Outside the door, people from the Marquis of Wuan's manor were still shouting, Madam Shen, is Miss Shen going to marry or not? Gathered around me were a few noble ladies who wanted to speak out against the injustice for me, but in a matter like this, they were helpless too. If father couldn't return to make the decision for me, I couldn't disobey mother's orders. My gaze swept over the people watching the show nearby, and a smile curled at the corner of my mouth. Mother, the one marrying into the Marquis manor is the general's legitimate daughter. If I marry someone, then the heir won't be able to marry me anymore, right? Mother froze, saying blankly, What are you saying? What getting married? You've already put on the wedding dress. What nonsense are you talking? If you have the ability, find someone to marry you right now. I walked towards that man in the crowd wearing red robes and a jade belt, with a gold crown binding his hair, and stopped in front of him. Zhang Nuo, I heard you rode a Fergana horse today. It would actually work well for fetching the bride. Would it be convenient for you to bow to heaven and earth and marry mere General of the Flying Cavalry? Jong Nuo and I are childhood sweethearts, yet we bicker the moment we meet. Today is my wedding, and he was actually willing to give that precious sword, which I've fought him for since childhood, as a gift. For the sake of the sword, I think he is thousands of times better than Gushuyu. Jong Nuo was clad in brocade, his right hand clutching a horsewhip and tapping it against his left palm. He raised a brow at me. Have you really thought this through? Marry me and you can't regret it. I took the red bridal veil. I will never regret it. Jong Nuo let out a loud laugh, took the red veil to cover my head, and scooped me up in one motion. He instructed the people around him. I'm taking a wife today. Everyone come to the General of the Flying Cavalry's manor for a cup of wedding wine. His sweat-blood horse was stopped outside the door. He lifted me onto the horse's back with him. Jinshu, sit tight. We're going home right now. The bright red wedding dress swirled around the hem of his red robe, and the precious steed galloped away. General Pingyun's men were in a chaotic mess, and the people from the Marquis of Wuan's residence waiting to fetch the bride were also in chaos. Madam Shen, our two families have a marriage contract. Your general's manor can't just break the agreement. My legitimate younger sister was crying and making a scene. Mother, I wouldn't sit in this white sedan chair even if I died. Don't you even think about making me marry into the Marquis's manor. That so-called cousin obviously has an intimate relationship with the heir. He treats her like his heart and soul. I am not marrying him. Suddenly, a stern shout came from the doorway. What are you all fussing about? It was General Pingnun, my father, who had rushed back, travel-worn. He frowned as he looked at the white sedan outside the door. Isn't today the day of Jinshu's grand wedding with the heir of Marquis Wuan? Why is there a white sedan chair in front of the manor? Whose family is holding a funeral? Such a lack of etiquette. How dare they park in front of the general's manor? Ruoer rushed forward, kneeling down with a thud, and said, General, you are finally back. You must stand up for the eldest miss. The Marquis Wuan's household is bullying us too much. They actually carried a white sedan chair to receive the eldest miss for the wedding. They said the cousin miss of the Marquis manor cannot see red, so they swapped all the wedding procession items to white. I heard even the wedding hall in the Marquis manor is draped in white cloth. How is this welcoming a bride? This is trying to drive the miss to her death. They even forced the eldest miss to change into a white dress to get married. If the eldest miss marries over like that, how could she have any path to survival? Madam even took the heir's side, having people strip off the eldest miss's wedding gown and change her into white clothes for the wedding. Forcing the eldest miss to the point where she could only hastily marry herself off. She just left with the general of agile cavalry. Father flew into a rage. Preposterous. He smashed the table beside him with a single palm strike. Stepmother stepped forward, and father slapped her across the face with a "pa." Oh, I married you to bring you in to care for my daughter, and is this how you care for her? Stepmother covered her face, her voice choked with sobs. General, what is wrong with Jinshu marrying into the Marquis manor? This is the marriage you arranged. Father let out a cold laugh. If it were a proper wedding procession, naturally there would be nothing wrong. But with the Marquis of Wuan's manor acting like this, you still forced Jinshu to marry. What are your intentions? If the one marrying were Jinyu, would you still act this way? Mother cried. But the one decided upon back then was Jinshu. Father looked at her with disappointment. When the engagement was set, it only said a legitimate daughter of the Shen family. It didn't specify who. Since we need to give the Marquis of Wuan's manor an explanation, then I will make the decision let Jinyu marry. The stepmother's face turned deadly pale, and she knelt down with a thud, her eyes full of tears. General, Jinyu is still young. Father stared at her until she lowered her head. Jinyu is already 17. She's not young anymore. Haven't you been constantly looking for a match for her, saying she could marry as soon as a good son-in-law was found? Jinshu has married the general of Agile Cavalry, so the residence only has Jinyu left as a legitimate daughter. How can the general's manor break its promise to others? The stepmother shook her head. No, Jinshu's marriage doesn't count. How can a girl just say she's getting married and get married? Someone spoke up to interrupt her. That's not true. Just now you clearly said that if the eldest miss could find someone to marry, you would agree to it. Exactly. Just now you were forcing the eldest legitimate daughter to marry into the Marquis manor. How come you're unwilling when it's your own daughter's turn? Now you suddenly can't bear to let her go. As expected, if she's not your own flesh and blood, you just don't care about her. The stepmother's face turned red, then white as she listened. She just knelt on the ground, wiping her tears, and said, General, I have always loved that child Jinshu as my own flesh and blood. How could I intentionally harm her? I was only afraid of offending the Marquis's manor, which might affect the general's official career. Besides, they're using a white sedan chair to welcome the bride. How can this be allowed? Jinyu is the legitimate daughter of the general's manor, after all. General, you can't let her marry like this. The Marquis manor must follow the rites to receive the bride. Otherwise, where will the general's manor put its face? The onlookers nearby laughed out loud. Now Madame Shen knows about following the rites to receive the bride? That isn't what she said just now. This stepmother is just cruel. You don't feel the pain unless the needle pricks your own body. The marriage with the Marquis of Wuan's household was made official before His Majesty. It's too late to back out now. There is no choice but to marry. The servants from the Marquis of Wuan's household hurriedly ran back to report that the master of the Shen manor had returned. The old madam of the Marquis of Wuan's household immediately had people carry over a dozen chests of apology gifts, saying it was to make amends to the Shen family's daughter. She said to consider these gifts as an addition to the young lady's dowry for the breach of etiquette today, and the wedding date would be discussed later. The stepmother looked at those dozen chests of jewelry and silver, her mind racing, and she was tempted. Finally, Father looked at stepmother. If Jinyu is willing to marry, add these to her dowry. If she isn't, send these back, and I'll just go to the palace to plead guilty. Stepmother immediately held them down. General, rest assured, I'll have a good talk with Jinyu and definitely make her nod. Father looked at the people from the Marquis of Wuan's manor and said, Go back and tell your heir, if he wants to marry my daughter, then come fetch the bride according to the rules. Immediately after, Father rushed to the general of the flying cavalry's manor. By then, Jiang No and I had already performed the wedding vows. Ruorer had followed along too, and as soon as she saw me, she wept and said, Miss, the general has returned to seek justice for you. I looked at my travel-worn father, my eyes reddening. Father! Jiang No stepped forward. Father-in-law, please accept this son-in-law's bow. Father had watched him grow up since he was little, so naturally knew him inside out. He patted his shoulder. Oh, if you treat Jinshu badly, my spear won't let you off. Even if you run to the ends of the earth, I'll come find you to settle the score. Jiang No grinned and said, Rest assured, father-in-law, I will definitely treat Jinshu well. Father patted my head. Dad came back late and let our Jinshu suffer. I've had people bring the dowry over. This is the dowry your mother and I prepared for you long ago. Now that you are married, even though it was rushed, the proper rites cannot be abandoned. A dowry of 120 loads was carried all the way from home into the manor in a grand procession. And Jiang No and I also performed the wedding vows again in front of Dad and got married, completing the 3 letters and 6 etiquettes, becoming a true husband and wife. I heard from the nannies in the manor that stepmother and my legitimate sister talked all night, detailing the countless benefits of the Marquis's manor. Upon entering, she would be the mistress of the house, and wouldn't that cousin be hers to manipulate as she pleased? By then, no one could shake her position. Besides, if she marries into the Marquis's manor, father would prepare the same dowry for her. Thinking of those 120 loads of dowry and that hereditary title, Jinyu was immediately tempted. Father warned the people at the Marquis's manor, and the Marquis's manor also agreed to welcome the Shen family's daughter in again with proper formal rites. So no matter how you looked at it, this marriage was doable. So Jinyu nodded and agreed, waiting happily to become a bride. On the day of my 3rd-day return visit, it just so happened to be the day the Marquis of Wuan and the General's manor were holding their grand wedding again. The Marquis of Wuan's manor carried a bridal sedan chair to fetch the bride, with trumpets blowing and drums beating in celebration all the way. Jinyu looked at me smugly. "Oh, sister, even though you were born precious and pampered, so what? You were still humiliated and married to a small general. When I marry into the Gu family and become the mistress of the Marquis's manor, you'll have to bow to me when you see me. I'd like to see who still says I'm not as good as you then." I smiled faintly. "Then I wish you get what you want, sister." Hey, the Marquis Wuan's household is teeming with all sorts of monsters and demons. Jinyu, that idiot spoiled clueless by her stepmother, will probably be eaten alive, bones and all. I stood behind the crowd, watching Gu Shuyu beaming with joy as he welcomed the bride out. Jinyu was acting terribly shy under her veil. Supported by Gu Shuyu, she got into the bridal sedan chair and was carried into the Marquis Wuan's household. Jiang No's parents died early, so there weren't many strict rules. After accompanying me on the return visit, considering my father missed his daughter dearly, he stayed with me at home for a few extra days. Who would have thought that Shen Jinyu, having just gotten married and not even reached the 3-day return visit, would come back weeping and wailing. As soon as she entered, she threw herself into stepmother's arms. "Mom, I want to divorce Gu Shuyu. He tricked me into marriage. He actually wants to marry Song Shinner as an equal wife." Stepmother was greatly shocked and hurriedly called the servants in to ask what was going on. It turned out that day, after performing the wedding vows and entering the bridal chamber, when Gu Shuyu lifted the veil and discovered the bride was actually Jinyu instead of me, he immediately turned pale with shock and said he wanted to call off the marriage. Jinyu tugged at him, crying pitifully, "Husband, we've already bowed to heaven and earth and entered the bridal chamber. Everyone knows you married me. If you call off the marriage, Jinyu will have no choice but to dash her head and die here in the Marquis of Wuan's manor. Sister has a big temper. That day, seeing you leave carrying cousin, she married the general of the flying cavalry right on the spot. Now she is already someone else's wife. It's useless for you to want to back out of this marriage to marry her. Besides, back when the engagement was set, it only said a legitimate daughter of the general's manor. I am also a legitimate daughter. Since your Gu family gave the nod to marry me, I am your wife. I was forced to marry over here just to save face for both families, and I've already suffered enough grievances. If my husband is displeased, Jinyu can only take 3 feet of white silk and end herself." Jinyu was petite, and crying so pitifully right now, looking both delicate and charming, Gu Shuyu's heart immediately softened. Warm fragrance and soft jade, since he had married her, he just went with the flow, entered the bridal chamber, and became husband and wife. But right in the middle of the night, someone outside the courtyard started banging on the door and making a scene. It was Song Shinner's maid-o. "Heir, Miss Cousin has fainted. Heir, go take a look, quick." Ignoring that it was still the wedding night, Gu Shuyu shoved Jinyu aside, sprinted out of the inner courtyard, and went to Song Shinner's room. Song Shinner's face was deathly pale as she just barely came to, her face covered in tears. Seeing Gu Shuyu, she just wept sorrowfully. "Cousin, I didn't mean to ruin your wedding night. It's just that my heart suddenly hurt so much I couldn't breathe. I fainted just now, and I was afraid I'd never wake up again, so I wanted to see you one last time." After saying that, she collapsed into Gu Shuyu's arms crying. The nanny beside Song Shinner had a face full of pity, and right in front of Gu Shuyu, she knelt down with a thump. "Heir, consider it this old slave begging you. Miss has been bedridden with a grave illness, and lately she has been getting worse. She even coughed up blood the day before yesterday. This slave is truly afraid that something might happen to Miss. Her parents are both gone, and if the worst happens, there won't even be a place to enshrine her spirit tablet. Heir, please just marry Miss. Give the young Miss a proper status, so even if she dies, she'll have a place to go." Having said that, she threw her arms around Song Siner. "My poor young Miss, this servant watched you grow up. I really can't bear it." Song Shinner shook her head. "No, I cannot make things difficult for cousin. Even if I die, I'm nothing but a mound of yellow earth." As she spoke, she covered her mouth and collapsed into her arms, coughing. How could Gu Shuyu stand it any longer? He directly pulled Song Siner into his arms. "Siner, don't be afraid. I will marry you as my equal wife tomorrow and give you a proper status." Jinyu woke up to learn that Gu Shuyu was going to marry Song Shinner as an equal wife, and her whole world collapsed. She looked at Gu Shuyu with reddened eyes. "We just had our wedding night yesterday, and today you want to marry an equal wife. Where does that leave me? That cousin of yours is always saying she won't live long, but she's lived in your house for all these years and I haven't seen her actually die. What is she faking? She probably schemed long ago to marry into the Marquis manor." Gu Shuyu could bear it no longer and slapped Jinyu across the face. "How can you speak of Shinner like that? She is innocent by nature, not that sort of calculating person." Jinyu covered her face. "No wonder my sister would rather call off the wedding on the spot than marry you. She saw through you ages ago." Gu Shuyu said impatiently, "Whether you like it or not, my mind is made up. I am marrying Shinner today." The Marquis of Wuan's manor didn't make a big affair of taking a co-wife, only inviting a few tables of friends and family. Just as the MC chanted, "Husband and wife bow to each other. Proceed to the bridal chamber," Jinyu rushed in. "Wait!" She strode forward, ignoring Gu Shuyu's dark expression, and sat down in the main hall. "My husband wants to take a co-wife, but according to our dynasty's customs, a co-wife is still a head lower than the principal wife. She ought to offer tea to me, the principal wife, first." Gu Shuyu shouted sternly. "Do you have to make a scene right now?" Jinyu wasn't afraid at all. "Husband is taking a co-wife the day after our wedding. You've already thrown away all dignity, so are you still afraid of me making a scene? For your cousin's sake, you brought a white sedan chair to the door during the wedding. The Gu family has long been the laughingstock of the entire capital, and now you're afraid of me making a joke." Song Shinner lifted her veil and stopped Gu Shuyu. "Husband, let me offer tea to sister." The servants immediately placed a cushion and brought hot tea. Song Shinner held the tea up unsteadily. "Sister, please have some tea." Jinyu stared at her silently. Just as she was about to reach out and take it, Song Shinner suddenly fell forward, splashing the hot tea all over Jinyu. The tea was scalding hot, making Jinyu jump up and shove Song Shinner away. "Are you trying to scald me to death, you vicious woman?" Song Shinner fell to the ground, tears streaming down. "If sister doesn't like me, just say so directly. Why accuse me of harming you? I don't even have the strength to serve tea. How could I harm you? Gu Shuyu scooped Song Shinner up into his arms and glared fiercely at Jinyu. You vicious woman! Go back to your own courtyard right now and reflect on your actions. If you still don't repent, we might as well find someone else to take the position of the mistress. That night, Gu Shuyu stayed in Song Shinner's room, and Song Shinner, who had been at death's door, surprisingly showed no signs of serious illness at all. She even looked much more spirited the next day. The nanny wiped her tears. Miss has been cured of her heartache, and her body has actually become strong. It's truly the heir's doing. Song Shinner leaned into Gu Shuyu's embrace and said shyly, in the future, Shinner will surely take good care of her health and bear children for cousin. Jinyu sat desolately in her bridal room all night. Early the next morning, she heard news spread from Song Shinner's side that she had recovered. How could she not know it was all a trap? Furious, she ran back home crying. After hearing about this, her stepmother was also livid with rage and wanted father to go to the Marquise's manor to settle the score. Father said with a cold face, I asked back then, if Jinyu was unwilling to marry, I would go apologize and call off the engagement myself. It was you who said yes. When Jinyu held the dowry list, she was overjoyed too. Did you think marrying into a prestigious family would be easy? What is the use of regretting it now? Jinyu just cried and said, Daddy, the heir is taking an equal wife. Isn't this a slap in our family's face? Besides, that Song Shinner is deeply scheming. She feigned illness for so many years just to marry into the Marquise's manor. Now that she's gotten her wish, Mom, I want to divorce him. I don't care. You have to make the heir divorce that Song Shinner. Jongno and I couldn't be bothered to listen to her weeping and wailing. She should have thought of this kind of thing before marrying into the Marquise's manor. What's the use of crying now? Father just said, if you want a divorce, that's fine too, but don't come looking for me when you want to get married again in the future. When Jinyu had cried enough and came out, she saw me picking flowers in the courtyard and said furiously, Sister, what a scheming mind you have. You knew full well the state the Marquis of Wan's household was in. Yet to save yourself trouble, you tricked me into marrying there. I looked at her. Marrying into the Marquis's manor was your own choice. You said that once you married in and became the mistress of the manor, and later the Marchioness, you were waiting for me to be beneath you and pay my respects. It was just that you and your mother couldn't bear to give up the wealth and glory, yet now you come to blame me for harming you. Just as I was speaking, a servant came to announce, the heir has come to pick up the second miss. Gu Shuyu hurried in, saw me and Jinyu, and paused, looking awkward. Jinyu, why did you suddenly come back to the general's manor? Isn't the third-day return visit tomorrow? Jinyu humphed and said, My returning to the general's manor, doesn't it perfectly make room for you and your little cousin? Gu Shuyu smiled apologetically, and with much cajoling and pleading, coaxed Jinyu back to the Marquis manor. The news that the heir of Marquis Wuan married an equal wife on the second day after his wedding instantly spread throughout the capital. Coupled with the fact that he used a white sedan chair to pick up the bride the first time, the Gu family had now become thoroughly infamous in the capital. Gu Shuyu originally thought this was merely a family matter of the Marquis manor, but unexpectedly the rumors spread so wildly that even the emperor in the palace heard about it. The marriage alliance between the two families was originally granted by the emperor. His marrying an equal wife on the second day was essentially a slap in the emperor's face, a sign of dissatisfaction with the bestowed marriage. Thus, the emperor summoned Gu Shuyu to the palace, severely reprimanded him, saying his conduct was improper and his virtue lacking, and ordered him to reflect at home for half a year. Gu Shuyu returned to the Marquis manor crestfallen. Just as he entered the inner courtyard, he heard screaming from inside. It was Song Shinner and Jinyu quarreling. He couldn't figure it out. His cousin, who was clearly always as gentle as water. Her health had improved after marriage, but her temper had become petty and suspicious, crying to him every day about how Jinyu was mean to her and withheld her allowance. And every time Jinyu saw him, she would say he was favoring a concubine over his wife, that an equal wife is still a concubine, causing unrest in the household. She would cry and make a scene, forbidding him from sleeping in Sinner's room, saying he had to wait until she was pregnant before he could touch Song Shinner again, and that he couldn't disregard the distinction between wife and concubine. The entire Marquis of Wuan's household became the biggest laughingstock in the capital for a time. Even when invitations arrived from other families, the two of them would snatch them back and forth, making a complete mess of social engagements. Now he can't even handle his official duties properly, and his superiors are very dissatisfied, saying that if he can't even manage his household affairs, he is unfit for important responsibilities. It wasn't long before the domestic battle between Jinyu and Song Shinner escalated to the issue of heirs. Song Shinner fainted during breakfast and was diagnosed as pregnant. At this, even the old madam, who was observing a vegetarian fast at the temple, rushed back, beaming with joy. She slipped the Gu family's heirloom jade bracelet onto Song Shinner's wrist and said with a smile, "If you give birth to the eldest legitimate son for our Marquis Manor, you shall be the mistress of the house." Song Shinner leaned into Gu Shuyu's embrace and said coquettishly, "I will certainly spread the family branches for my husband and bear many heirs for the Marquis Manor." Jinyu gritted her teeth in anger, but she had also gotten smarter. Putting on a virtuous expression, she stepped forward and said, "I am now in charge of the household affairs of the Marquis's manor. Since sister is pregnant, I will definitely take good care of you, so that sister can give birth to the Marquis's legitimate eldest son soon." Gu Shuyu let out a long sigh of relief. "With Madam being so virtuous and sensible, I am relieved. I certainly won't treat you unfairly in the future. You and Shinner are equally important in my heart. But ever since Song Shinner got pregnant, every day it was either a headache or a fever, or else her chest felt tight, and she was nauseous. She dragged Gu Shuyu to the courtyard to keep her company every single day. For 2 straight months, Jinyu didn't even see Gu Shuyu's face. When Song Shinner was fully 3 months along and the pregnancy was stable, she finally started coming out to walk around. She stroked her belly, as if terrified someone wouldn't know she was pregnant. Jinyu looked at her, a smile on her face, but whispered softly, "There isn't much difference between an equal wife and a concubine. Even if you give birth, it will still be a concubine's child. Besides, it's only been 3 months. Whether you can actually bring it to term remains to be seen." Song Shinner stroked her belly and looked at her. "Oh, it's still better than you, sister. It's a pity. Sister will never have the chance to bear her own heirs. No matter how many wives and concubines the Marquis of Wuan's manor has in the future, there will only be this one unique heir born of me." Jinyu's expression changed. "What do you mean?" Song Shinner smiled without speaking, yet her eyes carried a ruthless glint. She covered her face with a brocade fan. "So what if you are the general's legitimate daughter? Your mother raised you like a stupid pig. How can you compete with me?" Only then did Jinyu realize something was wrong and hurriedly found a doctor to check her pulse. She didn't know when she had been dosed with a sterilization drug and could never bear children again. Song Shinner naturally didn't admit it, weeping and wailing that her stomach hurt, saying Jinyu was jealous of her pregnancy and intentionally framed her. Jinyu thought of her words and asked the doctor to check Gu Shuyu's pulse as well, surprisingly discovering that the heir had also been drugged. Once this matter blew up, how could Gu Shuyu accept it? He immediately ordered a thorough investigation. Song Shinner prided herself on being clever. She left no evidence, so no one could testify that she was the one who administered the drug. But with things as they were, Gu Shuyu didn't need anyone to prove it at all. He went mad with anxiety, rushed into Song Shinner's courtyard, and grabbed her by the neck. "I treat you so well, yet you harm me." Song Shinner said gently, "Cousin, you love me so much, so what if you can't have children? You have the heirs born of me, so you aren't without descendants. In the future, the Marquis manor will be inherited by our child. Isn't that good?" Jinyu had always been raised to be arrogant and impetuous. After hearing she couldn't have children, she went completely mad. In the night, she lit a fire, trapping Song Shinner and Gu Shuyu inside the courtyard. She locked the main gate from the outside and splashed tung oil all over the entrance so no one could approach. The fire burned all night. When the government officials arrived in the morning, there were only 2 corpses burned to charcoal inside, Song Shinner and Gu Shuyu. Jinyu was very calm, just waiting for the officials to question her. She confessed without hesitation. "My husband favored a concubine to the detriment of his wife. The concubine poisoned the mistress, causing me to be heirless. Retribution for retribution, I set fire to the courtyard and willingly submit to the law." When father and I heard the news, we just let out a long sigh. I went to the imperial prison to see her, and Jinyu looked completely calm. "Since I was small, mother taught me to compete with you in everything, to be prettier than you, better at embroidery, better at playing the zither, and even to marry better. Only now do I realize that everything is fate, and we have no control over it at all." I set down the pastries. "His Majesty took pity on you and didn't hand down a heavy sentence. He only ordered your exile to a bitterly cold land, never to return to the capital for the rest of your life." After I finished speaking, I left her old nanny with her, then gave her a large sum of money, turned around, and left. Coming out of the imperial prison, Jiang Nuo was waiting for me by the carriage and helped me up. "Why didn't you tell her that it was father-in-law who begged for this glimmer of hope for her?" I gave a faint smile. "It doesn't matter anymore. When stepmother heard Jinyu was being exiled, she said she wanted to go with her to keep her company. She begged for a divorce letter, and father has already let her leave. For the rest of our lives, may we each be well.